Hey everyone, it's Sam here. Today is pizza day. Um, first time since I was in elementary school, I made homemade pizza dough today. And I also uh, got a pizza stone for the oven and or the grill, the barbecue. Um, that I am using for the first time today. So I wanted you to experience this with me. Um, Now what I have is, here's what the pizza dough looks like. Um, Now this is a combination of bread flour, some egg, and some active yeast, and some salt. Um, Now the supermarket I went to, because of COVID, apparently, active yeast packs are a hot commodity apparently because I couldn't locate any. So I got kind of one of those ready, full pizza dough mixture packs that they sell, and so it comes with the bread flour and the salt in there, and has a little mini active yeast pack in there. So. Actually, I'll show you what I got here. Bob's Red Mill Pizza Crust Mix. So that's what I had, and it's been rising all afternoon. Now, in here I have the pizza stone. It's rectangular, and I've got a pizza cookie in there that I'm going to show you as in this video. But following these instructions for this pizza crust, I took 2 packages makes 4 pizzas. I'm making 4 pizzas today, 2 of 2 different varieties, which I'll walk you through. So I quartered these. They're very sticky, so you got to oil your hands. I oiled my hands with some canola oil. Then, very carefully form it onto the pizza stone in the oven. In the oven, I preheated originally at the top temperature, which is 500 degrees, to get that stone kind of the oven hot temperature. So it takes a little while to warm up. So it probably took about 30 minutes. Then I lowered it back down to the pizza cooking temperature, which is 425. And I took the quartered, the yeast risen dough, pizza dough, gently start to form it into the circle of a pizza, the pizza crust, and let it cook in there, for at least 5 minutes. Then I went back in there and started to spread it some more when it started to firm up. So this is kind of like a pre-prepped pizza dough, which is the effect of spreading it on the pizza stone while it's cooking in the oven at 425 for this one is 7 minutes. One other thing is here's some cornmeal. So it's good to kind of sprinkle the cornmeal onto the surface of the pizza stone where you're laying the dough. It helps the dough come off the pizza stone, but it also adds kind of a texture to the bottom of your pizza. You're probably familiar with that. A lot of pizzerias will have that, and if you get the pizza by the slice in New York, a lot of pizzerias there will have that as well. So the 2 types of pizzas we're going to be making today. One is more of a traditional pizza. It's a non-tomato sauce based pizza. Now my neighbor graciously allowed me to sample some of his lovely figs. Look at these wonderful figs, which are ripe and in season, it being early August. So in honor of these lovely figs, I'm making a fig pizza with prosciutto. I have some prosciutto here, and also I picked up some goat cheese. Now this goat cheese has orange blossom honey effects to it, so that'll be a nice pizza. So why don't we start out with this one? Okay. So here I'm taking the pre-prepped pizza dough. Okay. Now, what I have here is I took a couple cloves of garlic and pan roasted them in their skins in some oil, some olive oil. And my friend Nanyang reminded me that it was my grad school roommate was Craig Gottlieb. So I can thank Craig Gottlieb and Nanyang for the reference and for the technique of pan roasting the garlic. So what I have here is some nice extra virgin olive oil. So I'm putting that onto this preset pizza dough, kind of spreading it around, and then I'm going to take, I chopped up, after I pan roasted, I took it out of, took the cloves out of the skin and just rough chopped the garlic. So I'm just spreading that, distributing these garlics, the roasted garlic, onto this. All right. Now, the guest of honor for this pizza, this luscious fig. So you're gonna slice off the cap. You don't want to eat the cap. Cut down the center. Look at this. This just looks juicy and sweet and delectable. So I'm gonna slice that up into nice bite-sized pieces. All right, and let's just distribute this. Now you can see these homemade hand rolled pizza crusts are pretty small. So this very large fig, the one very large fig will do the trick. Okay. I also have some prosciutto here. Prosciutto being a pork, dry cured pork. Okay, so just taking some of those, just tearing bite-sized pieces off, adding those around, distributing those around onto this pizza. Okay, that looks good. Now let's take some of this goat cheese, the orange blossom honey goat cheese. Okay, it's pretty soft, so I just want to break off some chunks, some nice chunks of this. So there isn't a tomato sauce in this pizza, and there isn't a regular traditional mozzarella blend of cheese. It's just this delicate goat cheese, which should nicely accentuate this wonderful fresh fig, juicy fig, as well as the prosciutto. Prosciutto also goes well with, your melon, your cantaloupe, or your honeydew melons. So it'll go nicely with this very in season and ripe fig. All right, here I have some balsamic vinegar. So I'm just going to drizzle some of that onto this. Nice drizzle of that. Okay. Some salt, some kosher salt. Some fresh crushed black pepper. And finally, some baby arugula. Just sprinkle some baby arugula on top. Okay, so this one's ready to go into the oven on the pizza stone. I'll set that aside here. Okay, now okay, let's pivot over to our second pizza. Our second pizza is definitively not traditional. It might be described as sacrilege. Now this revelation came to me as I was just looking at a random Instagram post of a Taiwanese, I think it was a Taiwanese Pizza Hut that was making a ramen pizza. So it was taking some traditional toppings, including ramen noodles, Japanese ramen with some pork, and basically made a pizza out of it. And so I thought, hey, why don't I make a popular Korean dish, which is known as buda찌개. Buda찌개 is Korean. Budae means army. Jjigae means stew. Now, the reason why it's called buda찌개 is historically, during and after the Korean War, when the U.S. military was in Korea, the U.S. soldiers were supplied with a lot of canned meats, like hot dogs, and of course spam. And so, along with some vegetables, if there were leftovers, then they would give them to the very poor local Korean residents. And so the Koreans would take all these ingredients and just make a nice stew, a nice spicy stew out of it with ramen noodles as well. So this is a very popular dish, especially with the young people in Korea nowadays. This is kind of a fun dish that I want you to experience with me. So you'll notice, pizzas in general, when they're non-vegetarian, they often have pork. So the prosciutto on the fig pizza, and I've got spam, and I've also got hot dog for this buda찌개 pizza. So that's what inspired me to wear this hat from a Hawaii restaurant in Hawaii that serves Kahlua pork. This shirt needs no explanation. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the composition of this, but I've actually pre-prepared this pizza, so you wouldn't have to wait around and see. I'm just taking some tomato sauce, and this is Rayo's famous homemade tomato basil spaghetti pasta sauce. And so I mix that in. For this, I'm using the Shin ramen, which is a very popular Korean ramen. So I'm taking the spice packs from those, so with some spicy kind of, salt and spicy Korean peppers, and some of the dried vegetables, and add that into the tomato sauce. Okay, to get that kind of accent of buda찌개. Now I also took the noodles and I just cooked them in water al dente. So here are the ramen noodles. Okay, and so taking the here you see it. Taking the pre-prepped pizza dough, I spread a layer of the Korean ramen spice tomato sauce onto the pizza dough. Then I added the al dente ramen, spread that over. So it's carb upon carb, very good for your diet, of course. Added some sliced onions, some raw sliced onions. Now here, what I have is the spam. We had some small Vienna sausages, or breakfast, sausages, like very basically mini hot dogs. So I sliced those up. And finally, the kimchi. Kimchi, if you don't know, is a quintessential Korean side dish, pickled cabbage, very pungent. And so I took all three of these and just pan sauteed them to get them, nice cook on them. And it's nice to get that sauteed kimchi prior to putting it on the pizza. Now I have a story about kimchi. When I was a kid growing up, I had some tutoring lessons, and every time the lessons, it's probably once a week were the lessons. Every time the lessons came about, it was in the afternoon, and my mom was starting to prepare dinner, a Korean dinner, and she had this large jar of kimchi in her fridge. And sure enough, you would have our tutoring session, and all of a sudden you would just smell, essentially it smelled like flatulence, the pungent smell of kimchi. So I always was like a little bit embarrassed, because our tutor probably didn't know what it was. But anyways, Korean cuisine popularity in the U.S. has come a long way, and a lot of people are very familiar with kimchi. It's a wonderful side dish. Another thing to note. All right. Well, let me pull this first. Okay, so here you see the pizza stone, and this is the fig prosciutto pizza with goat cheese, which I will sample very shortly. Okay. All right. All right. So I've added the sautéed spam, hot dog, and kimchi, onions. Put some mushrooms on there, and just have a pizza blend. This is a mozzarella pizza blend of cheese. So I put a layer of that above the tomato sauce, added the toppings, and then I put a layer of cheese on top. Obviously there's not much real estate, so you don't need a whole lot of cheese. Now to finish this off, I'm going to put this pizza in the broiler pan. The broiler pan down here. And I'm going to add an egg. All right. You just have to be careful, because that egg will want to slide off of that pizza. So very carefully put it on and close the broiler pan door. Oh, I should have mentioned, back to this budae-jjigae pizza. So if you're not familiar with budae-jjigae, the stew, there's this wonderful show on Netflix called Somebody Feed Phil. There's this comedian named Phil Rosenthal, and he was a writer for Everybody Loves Raymond. But it's a food show, and he goes to different cities around the world and basically tries the local cuisine. And so there's a Seoul, Korea episode that Phil goes to where he tries budae-jjigae. And when he learns that it's called budae-jjigae, he said, "Whoa, it sounds like a presidential candidate," meaning Pete Buttigieg. So I thought that was hilarious. But anyways, small world, because I was watching this other show called, like Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David. And there was a recent episode from the most recent season where he started wearing a Trump MAGA hat in situations where he didn't want to socialize. Keep in mind this was LA. And so he actually had a lunch date with a guy named Phil, and he met Phil at this restaurant in the show and put on his MAGA hat, his red MAGA hat. Phil shows up and is very uncomfortable and quickly makes up an excuse to break off the lunch date. But then I rewatched this episode or the scene, and I realized it was Phil Rosenthal from Somebody Feed Phil, so I thought that was pretty hilarious. Okay. All right, so that budachiga pizza is almost done. I'm just going to take this final roll of pizza dough and put it onto the stove. So you can see the stone has been used, got a lot of use already because I've put 3 on there already. So it's crusting up there. I'm just putting some, as I mentioned, putting some oil onto my hands so it doesn't stick. And I'm spreading it out onto the pizza stone. Okay. All right. This budachiga pizza looks nice. Oh yeah. Look at that. The egg is nice and partially cooked and yolky. Now, one final step. One final step for this budachiga pizza. I have some sesame leaves that we grown in the oven. I'm sorry, in the garden. Now these are known as perilla leaves. They're a relative to the Japanese shiso leaf that you might have tasted in sushi. Very fragrant. So they're relatives and they're very similar taste, but definitively different flavors. But this is a very quintessential Korean flavor. So I'm just gonna cut up slices of this on top. And this is also dried nori or kim, and it's salted and seasoned, so let's put some of this on top as well. Okay. All right, so finally, here are the 2 finished pizzas. Now, in retrospect, I think we'll want to add the arugula after pulling from the oven because it's looking a little wilted. Live and learn. Okay. And let's cut into this budachiga. Ooh, look at that yolk dripping out. All right, let's try the more delicate fig goat cheese prosciutto. It's nice. And here we go. Ode to Korean budachiga pizza. It's nice with that egg yolk. Get the flavors of the kimchi and the Spam married with the tomato sauce. Be very careful with the egg yolk, because as I mentioned, it very easily will come out. All right. So thank you, and if you enjoy watching these cooking videos, please do subscribe. The more subscribers I get, the more incentivized I will be to keep creating content. So take care. Thanks.